In a lot of ways, it's just a train. Massive metal boxes on wheels, heaving with cargo, rumbling down tracks, a means of transportation from point A to point B, powered by thousands of gallons of fuel. But this isn't just any old train. This train is fueled by love. This is the Santa Train, a Christmas tradition born out of a simple desire to say thank you and sustained out of a desire to never let a good thing die.
On that day, it's like one big family.
On one day of the year, it's anything but business as usual on a 110-mile stretch of the CSX Clinchfield Railroad line from eastern Kentucky through southwest Virginia into northeast Tennessee.
It's the longest Christmas parade in the United States.
It's really just a long Santa Claus parade. Instead of a fire engine, it's a train.
At carefully planned stops along the route, people flock to the train tracks for a chance to be given an early Christmas gift and a chance to see Santa.
And all the children are yelling, Santa, Santa, Santa.
I have come since I was 5, 6 years old.
Who are you looking for?
Santa.
Even more remarkable, this has been happening for 80 years.
It's not just mom and dad's, it's mom, dad's, grandma, great-grandma.
Started during the difficult days of World War II when some businessmen wanted to do something to thank their hard-working customers who needed some Christmas cheer.
And we had people that thought so big, and they just had no bounds.
Through decades that brought dramatic change, the Santa Train remained a constant.
When I hear that train coming around that bend down there and the sound goes off, it just makes my heart beat really, really fast.
As people's black and white photos evolved into colorized home movies, like this one that hasn't been seen publicly in more than 50 years.
There has to be something there for something to last for 80 years.
A regional tradition that one night made national news.
Well, Charles Kuralt found it on the railroad in Virginia.
And then became the fascination of people around the world through footage not aired in 4 decades.
The train they're looking up at is the Santa Special.
That is, until now.
It's grown since then to something I don't think anybody ever imagined.
The Santa Train may only happen on one day, but it takes months of planning and preparation.
There's a lot of work that goes into the Santa Train that people don't realize go on behind the scenes all year long.
Hard work and a mission to spread cheer.
The biggest thing that I enjoy more on this Santa Train is look out and see all the kids with the great smiles on their face.
But some say this Appalachian tradition had almost reached the end of the line after 2 years of cancellations and then the announcement that it wouldn't happen again in 2022.
CSX didn't know if they were going to be able to have workers at each stop.
But then a jaw-dropping change of plans.
What would it take, you know, if we could bring it back, what would it take to make that happen?
And you could hear all those who were on the Zoom call just cheering, clapping, yelling.
But could a project that takes almost a year to coordinate come together in a matter of just a few weeks?
I'm like, we're going to do it. We're going to make this thing happen, and the train is going to run again.
This is the story of how they did it.
Santa Train, celebrating 80 years, sponsored by Food City.
Courtesy Chevrolet Buick GMC. Hey, we've been serving the Tri-City area for over 30 years and still going strong. So from all of our employees, thank you. All I can ask, come give Courtesy a try. Kingsport, Tennessee on Stone Drive or courtesytricities.com.
Food. It makes the holidays merrier. 'Tis the season for the freshest produce, the highest quality cuts of meat, and more. Nobody does food or the holidays like Food City. This week, save on Food City fresh, lean ground round, $4.99 a pound for 3 pounds or more. Del Monte vegetables, buy one, get one free. Oscar Mayer bacon, just $5.99, and more.
Value every day, Food City.
Looking for a credit card with a great rate, no annual fee, and 24/7 fraud monitoring? An Eastman Credit Union Visa is exactly what you need this holiday season. Plus, through December 31st, you can earn more rewards and pay less interest. Earn double points on select net purchases using an ECU Cash Rewards or Platinum Preferred card. And pay 2.49% APR on all purchases using any ECU credit card. What are you waiting for? Visit ecu.org/earn-more to get started today.
Absolute Granite and Cabinetry is your one-stop for kitchen and bath. We can turn your ideas into the kitchen and bath of your dreams. For both new construction and remodeling, we offer one of the largest selections of granite, marble, quartz, and quartzite with over 70 colors in stock that can be custom cut and polished to your specifications. Absolute also has a wide selection of semi-custom cabinetry that fit your decor and budget. Enjoy your kitchen and bath like never before with the help of Absolute Granite and Cabinetry.
No one has time for unexpected problems, especially when it comes to electricity. At Precision Electrical Company, we understand. We have 24/7 emergency service, and our helpful staff will schedule your appointment within a 2-hour window. Our expert electricians will be on time, professional, polite, respect your home, and solve your problems so that you can get back to your busy life.
Precision Electrical, everyone's personal electrician.
Not sure what to get that one dude on your list this Christmas? Maybe he's a little unconventional. Maybe he marches to the beat of his own drum. Maybe he's a little out there. Well, one thing's for sure. He'll definitely maybe fall in love with a prettily wrapped piece of perfect apparel from our friends over at the Haller Brothers. Trust us and heed the call right here at Mahoney's, Johnson City.
Courtesy Chevrolet Buick GMC. Hey, we've been serving the Tri-City area for over 30 years and still going strong. So from all of our employees, thank you. All I can ask, come give Courtesy a try. Kingsport, Tennessee on Stone Drive or courtesytricities.com.
It's 5:30 a.m. on a cold, dark Saturday morning, the Saturday before Thanksgiving 2022. Here in the CSX rail yard in Shelby, Kentucky, a flurry of activity long before the first light of dawn.
Good morning, everyone. Santa train.
In the air, a sense that something big's about to happen.
Yes, sir. I'm going to hand this up. Good morning. How you doing? You're welcome.
The 8 people are going to grab a bag, and then they're going to get off.
Instructions given, 15 tons of cargo packed. With almost no one around to see it happen, the Santa train comes to life. Over the next 9 hours, the Santa train will wind its way along a 110-mile route, making 13 stops in communities along the way. Communities named Marrowbone, Elkhorn City, Tom's Bottom, then into Virginia, Hayside, Clinchco, Fremont, and Dant. Then St. Paul, Dungannon, Fort Blackmore, Kermit, and Waycross, and then into Tennessee for the final stop in Kingsport, where the idea to do this was born. Long before the Santa train can leave the CSX train yard near Pikeville, Kentucky, a lot of work has to be done.
There's 15 tons of toys, all kinds of goods that are packed, pre-packed, before they come onto the train.
It's a little bit nerve-wracking.
At the heart of preparations is Jamie Horton. She's the Santa Train coordinator for Food City, one of the Santa Train primary sponsors. But this time of year, she goes by a different name.
Chief Elf.
Her sidekick, Raymond Stockard, who's actually the manager of Food City in Kingsport and the unofficial chairman of the Santa Train.
Typically, we start working on Santa Train in June or July.
On this Wednesday morning before the Santa Train, Food City employees are beginning the process of moving presents out of storage. And Food City isn't alone. In a warehouse hundreds of miles from the Tri-Cities, volunteers with the nonprofit organization Souls for Souls are busy packing for the Santa Train as well. Back in Southwest Virginia, the team from Food City is on a different mission now. They're posting notices in communities along the railroad tracks.
Letting everybody know, hey, the Santa Train's back. And these are the stops and times, so we can't wait to see you there. A lot of people will actually keep them. They treasure them as well.
Santa train! train! Santa train!
It's now Thursday night before the Santa Train's 80th run. Outside Food City on Eastman Road in Kingsport, a small army of volunteers has gathered. This is another Santa Train tradition, the beginning of the packing of the train.
I know what it's definitely meant the last couple of years when we didn't get to have it.
As the first stop of the Santa Train happens before the crack of dawn, a team mobilizes to get to work inside the train.
This car is where all of the magic happens.
When we actually stop, it's our responsibility to get the totes out to the back of the train.
We only have a few minutes at each stop, and so we have a number of totes that is allotted to each stop.
Outside at each stop, CSX security and police create a life-saving safety barrier.
You tell them all year long, stay off the tracks, it's against the law, and then you invite them onto the tracks for that one day of the year.
But it wasn't always that way. For decades, Santa and his elves just tossed gifts from the back of the train without actually stopping.
And then the people would descend on the tracks just like a giant vacuum cleaner and pick everything up.
As with a lot of traditions, changing times require adjustments. So now each stop is scheduled to the second. With CSX security in place, the volunteers go out into the crowds.
And there's Santa's elves that get off the train with bags of toys, and their task, their role is to go out into the crowd, away from where Santa can't reach.
Yay! Something else many never get to see, Santa Claus on a mission the day before he rides the train. Here at Clintwood Baptist Church, Santa's meeting with some of his fans who, for a lot of reasons, can't endure the crowds and the uneven railroad tracks to see his train and hear his reminder that they are loved.
You know, if you could somehow capture that and bottle it up and sell it, it'd be a big product.
Now all the preparations are over and the Santa Train is on the move. But why? Why do it? Why did they start it 80 years ago? And why at a time when the rest of the world was at war? To understand that, you have to go back in time. You have to watch the film, now being broadcast publicly for the first time in decades, to see the images locked away in personal collections.
This is Santa's hair and beard.
And even to touch the priceless few reminders of that transformational moment in time when a small group of people dared to do the impossible.
It was a remarkable adventure.
Food. It makes the holidays merrier. 'Tis the season for the freshest produce, the highest quality cuts of meat, and more. Nobody does food or the holidays like Food City. This week, save on Food City Fresh Lean Ground Round, $4.99 a pound for 3 pounds or more. Del Monte Vegetables, buy one, get one free. Oscar Mayer Bacon, just $5.99. And more.
We would like to thank you for voting Salon Soca #1 in the entire beauty category for Johnson City's Reader's Choice Awards 2022. We offer a variety of designer hair services, including hair extensions, nails, lash and brow bar, barbering, makeup, bridal, in-salon and on-site, as well as aesthetics. We welcome you in to enjoy one of our luxury hair services.
Winter is fast approaching and energy costs are rising as much as 27% this year. Are you overspending due to old worn-out windows? Call The Window Source and talk to our experienced team who will help you save money today. We have many options to help you design the perfect replacement windows. We also specialize in siding and doors, making sure your home stays warm and cozy. With 32 years of experience, along with the highest rated warranty in the industry, we are the window siding and door experts. Call The Window Source today.
The perfect floor starts at your locally owned Abbey Carpet and Floor showroom. Personalized service, expert assistance, incredible selection, free estimates, professional installation. We'll pamper your home from start to finish. We know our neighbors because we are your neighbor.
For the finest in residential and commercial flooring, come see us at Dockery Abbey Carpet and Floor, 3546 West Market Street in Johnson City.
Do you hear what I hear?
Well, I don't hear any singing, so I'm guessing ghosts.
December 15th, it's Ghostsmas for TV's most celebrated comedy.
Christmas is not just a holiday, it's a lifestyle.
It's a coffee flavor that she starts using in June.
Everyone's invited to the most festive day of the year.
Salutations! Ben Franklin, what are you doing here?
The more the merrier.
The all-new 1 hour Ghostsmas, December 15th on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.
When the power is out, call Mr. Electric. Mr. Electric certified technicians will respond quickly to your emergency, evaluate the problem, and get you out of the dark. But why wait? Take care of your electrical problems before they become an emergency. With our electrical expertise, your home is in good hands. Call for an appointment today. Mr. Electric, we have the power to make things better.
This is the sound of Christmas arriving. The caroling of these bells accompanied by the rumble of metal on metal. It's a song that hasn't been heard in a few years here, and it's been missed.
Hang around, there'll be some more stuff coming your way.
This is Christmas. It is just after 7 o'clock. The Santa trains arrived here in Elkhorn City, Kentucky. And even though it's barely daylight in the low 20s, a huge crowd is here to see the Santa train. Early on Saturday morning, alarm clocks have gone off and people from the youngest to the oldest have crawled out of bed to come together and remember.
We're really enjoying it that the Santa train is back this year to celebrate it with our grandchildren. It's just the memories. And my children, they're grown and they still love it also. It's just something you never forget.
Many here saying thank you to Santa and all the people on his train. Noteworthy because the Santa train actually began as a way to say thanks to them, to the people who live along the railroad.
A group of local business leaders in Kingsport just thought it would be a nice thing to ride the regular Clinchfield passenger train on the Saturday at that time after Thanksgiving from Elkhorn City, Kentucky to Kingsport and throw off candy from the rear with one of the guys dressed up in a Santa suit. And that's it.
It really was that simple. But to understand why those businessmen did it requires a little context. The year was 1943. America was mired in World War II and still reeling from the reality that this Christmas, a lot of families would be separated by war.
The nation, while united in the efforts against the Axis enemies in the war, it was kind of, must have been a collective funk. A morale issue.
In Kingsport, Tennessee, late 1943 found downtown business owners anxious to do something to help and to say thank you to the people who rode the passenger train from the coalfields to Kingsport.
This was the place that they wanted to come, they wanted to visit, they wanted to spend their money.
That Kingsport business community knew that many of their best customers earned their living the hard way, digging coal out of the earth, coal that in many ways was the fuel firing the American war effort.
They have the hard work. Now, they made pretty good money, but they have terrifically difficult work, and we need to show our appreciation for that.
For all those reasons, they thought, why don't we just find one of the fattest guys in our little business group, which predated the chamber, and get a Santa suit and put him on the rear of the regular passenger train and try to do something worthwhile and positive. That's all it was.
The plan, while a bit zany, was pretty simple. November 27th, 1943, the Saturday after Thanksgiving, they'd gather up all the toys and all the candy they could find, load it onto a train, haul it northwest into the coal fields, and then give it all away.
And they would ride the train up the day before, and they actually slept on the train.
that night. They would stay in Pullman cars on the train, and then they'd get up the next morning and make the trip down.
Early on, a key business supporter was the Oakwood Supermarket, based in Kingsport.
Everybody wanted to have a connection to the train and to the area that the train served.
Early on, it actually wasn't called the Santa Train. Early photos show for decades it was called the Santa Claus Special. About a decade after the tradition began, the luxurious Clinchfield 100 car was brought in to be Santa's car at the end of the Santa Claus Special.
Clinchfield 100 was built in 1911 for the Atlantic Coastline Railroad. My family would take me out, and we would go and see it come in. Yeah, you never forget something like that.
This remarkable recording shows the Santa Train as it rolls into Kingsport after it's run through the Kentucky and Virginia coalfields in 1969. Home video from the Virgil Q. Wax collection, now living at the East Tennessee State University Archives of Appalachia. Wax was a Southwest Virginia entrepreneur and host of a weekly program that aired on local TV stations, including WJHL. His footage, donated to ETSU by his family, offers a fascinating glimpse into what the Clinchfield Santa Claus Special looked like more than 50 years ago. And it shows the Clinchfield 100.
It's just unbelievable how it's kept on going over the years.
But by the early 1980s, the Clinchfield 100 was no longer on the Santa Train. It was sold into private hands, and over the next 30 years deteriorated to the point it was destined for destruction. That is, until the Watauga Valley Railroad Museum found it, purchased it, and restored it.
We wanted to put it back just like it was, and let people enjoy it and see it. And we had no idea it was going to be the Santa car, but it worked out that way.
In 2019, the Clinchfield 100 returned to the Santa Train route. Mike Tilley says he and others couldn't have been more proud, and they hope that one day the car will ride the rails on the Santa Train once again. For many years, the Santa Train was a regional tradition, known mostly just to people who lived along the tracks. But then, a reporter's curiosity changed everything.
He brought it to a national audience, and that's when it really became a big deal, a big deal.
Video not aired in decades shows the moment the Santa Train became an international fascination.
A combustion analysis of your gas furnace could save you money and may save your life. Call and schedule yours today with Kingsport Heating and Air. Carrier, turn to the experts. Call 423-246-1500 today.
Food. It makes the holidays merrier. 'Tis the season for the freshest produce, the highest quality cuts of meat, and more. Nobody does food or the holidays like Food City. This week, save on Food City Fresh Lean Ground Round, $4.99 a pound for 3 pounds or more. Del Monte vegetables, buy one, get one free. Oscar Mayer bacon, just $5.99. And more.
Time is running out, so hurry down to Friendship to save thousands of dollars during the No November event. No money down, no interest, and no payments until 2023. We have over 700 used cars to choose from starting under $5,000. That's right, you heard it, under $5,000. And new Jeeps priced for thousands less. So go online and shop our price. You won't find a better deal out there. Also, you get a lifetime warranty and an any reason 7-day exchange included with every new or used car. Nobody beats Friendship Jeep of Bristol. We're dealing.
Home Improvement Warehouse was real. I mean, it was just great to work with. We saw it online, and we went into the store, and they had everything we wanted. Not only did we buy our floor, we bought the tile for the bathrooms, we bought our vanities from them, we bought our vanity tops from them. You could walk in there, they know your name, they remember who you are, they still write notes down and keep it in a folder. It's not all computerized. I would recommend Home Improvement Warehouse 100%. I can't imagine getting anything better.
Home Improvement Warehouse, Greenville, Tennessee.
Forget
the turkey, Pizza Plus presents Pepe's Porky Pie Pizza. It all starts with signature barbecue sauce, sausage, ham, and bacon, topped off with mozzarella cheese. For a limited time only, get a medium for just $14.50 at Pizza Plus. That's a medium Pepe's Porky Pie Pizza for only $14.50. Or go large for just $3 more. Bring home the bacon, only at Pizza Plus. Like them on Facebook, and for more information, go to pizzaplusinc.com.
Tommy's Plumbing has been in business for 30 years, and we're still growing because we treat our customers like family. We are proud to do any job from kitchen faucet installation to a complete home repipe. Tommy's Plumbing offers warranties on most products installed by our technicians. When the job is done, our friendly professionals make sure to clean up. We invite you to visit our new showroom in Jonesboro to see our quality products for yourself. Tommy's is the only one to call when you need a fast, reliable, professional plumber in the Tri-Cities.
When your gas furnace is on, do you get headaches or feel sleepy? Deadly carbon monoxide buildup could be the issue. Call and schedule a combustion analysis now with Kingsport Heating and Air. Carrier. Turn to the experts. 423-246-1500.
Merry Christmas! After stops that last 15 to 20 minutes, the Santa train departs for the next location. At every stop, you'll see plenty of little ones ready for a gift.
Did you see Santa Claus?
He's on the train, yeah!
But you'll also notice plenty of grown-ups.
It's just the giving and the loving and them coming out and just donating to people who don't have.
Some who've come with their children and their grandchildren, hoping to give them a gift of something they loved when they were young.
I have came my whole life, and now I love, experience it with my girls.
Long before many of these parents were even born, the Santa train was known mainly to people in and around Kingsport and the small coal communities along the Clinchfield line.
It was meant for the people along the way, and it was recognized and celebrated by a relatively small group of people.
But in the early 1980s, something happened that made this regional tradition the fascination of television viewers nationwide.
If you're having a little trouble getting into the Christmas spirit this year, this might do it. It did it for us. The glimpse of a child's face from a moving train. And then another, awed and expectant. And another. A whole day of children's faces looking up. The children live along the tracks of the Clinchfield Railroad, deep in the folds of the mountains of Virginia. The train they're looking up at is the Santa Special.
In '82, when Charles Kuralt rode the train, he brought it to a national audience, and that's when it really became a big deal,
That reporting led to more reporting, and soon journalists around the world wanted a spot on the train.
Santa's helper back in the train's candy compartment has been making this trip for more years even than that. E.B. Jitney Blankenbeckler remembers seeing children standing barefoot in the snow beside the tracks. You've made a lot of kids happy over the years.
Well, I hope so, yes. But not near as happy as it's made me and the other fellows, We get a lot out of it. Especially the new men, the first few trips. It's a big emotional experience.
It became literally an international phenomenon. You'd see film crews, media folks from literally all over the country.
One of those journalists was Leanne Hoover.
I was going to write an article for U.S. Airways magazine. Yeah, but it was the who, what, where, when, why, even how of the Santa train.
Leanne Hoover says along the train tracks in Southwest Virginia, she had a clear realization.
I saw parents, actually grandparents, parents, and children who all remembered coming to the Santa train. And I thought, man, there's so much more to this than just the facts.
So much more, she decided to write a book. Specifically, a book for children, with stunning original artwork and a story imagined from her real-life interviews. The Santa train tradition tells the story of the train through the eyes of a family who ventures out in the snow to see it.
My desire was for this little book to give back, just like the train.
For years, Food City sold the books and donated all the profits to the Santa Train Scholarship Fund, which has awarded about $165,000 in scholarships to 34 students since it was created in 1989. International fame, a children's book? For those founding creators, their Santa Train dream had evolved into something none of them could have imagined.
Their focus was to do this and do it well so other people could enjoy it. They didn't care who got the credit. They were in it for the right reason.
Something that became crystal clear in that 1982 broadcast.
There they are up ahead every year at every crossing. Bartlett, Virginia, Splash Dam, Hayside. Children to whom the Santa Special brought the only Christmas they knew some years, now grown up, bring their children down to listen for the whistle in the distance and watch the gaudy headlight approach and wave to the train with their hearts beating fast and hope for candy or a toy or a doll.
Hi, honey, there's one for you. That's from old Santa. Come on down there and get that. That's from Santa.
So we'll let this be our first present of the season to you. The jingling bell of Clinchfield Locomotive 6006 and the jolly good spirits of grown men playing Santa for a day, and all the children holding their breath and smiling, looking up. Charles Kuralt, CBS News, on the road in Virginia.
On the road, on the rails more accurately, the Santa Train seems to mean different things to different people.
I just think it's fun. It's just fun. Fun to see all the kids and everything. It's just fun.
For some, it seems to go a bit deeper, to triggering memories of a time, memories of loved ones who've long since passed away.
I had two sisters, and we would. My dad worked for the railroad, and we would hear it blowing the horn, and Dad said, "Hurry, go out, go on, girls."
Colleen Phillips Massey grew up along the tracks in Dant, Virginia.
And I remember standing out, and the snow would pile up on my mittens, waiting for Santa to come. It's so dear to my heart, brings tears to my eyes.
Coming back to see the train is an annual tradition for her and so many others. Hundreds have gathered here in Dant, Virginia for the Santa Train. Hard to believe that just a few weeks ago, this was not even supposed to happen after CSX announced the cancellation of the train for the third year. When the Santa Train rolled into Kingsport in November 2019, no one on board could have dreamed that in a few short months, a global pandemic would halt the train that had so far never missed a year.
Tonight at 5, President Donald Trump declares a national emergency.
Santa Train organizers made the decision that for many was just the latest in a series of heartbreaks. The announcement that the Santa Train partners would reimagine the 2020 Santa Train and provide a safe alternative, an attempt at positivity. But for the core Santa Train volunteers,
COVID-19 was the most terrible thing that could happen to the train.
The cancellation of the train was devastating.
For it to not happen was more than just a train not happening. It had an effect on people's attitudes. There was a sense of sadness around the community.
We as sponsors knew that we had to put safety first. So that's when we decided we're not going to stop the train. Even though the train wasn't on the tracks, we were still going to have Santa Train. And that's when we came up with the drive-through event that we held at our 4 Food City locations.
With a can-do spirit that seemed to echo the founders of the train, the team that year did the next best thing. In masks, in Food City grocery store parking lots, they carried on, hoping it would only be 1 year. A year later, COVID-19 concerns led organizers to cancel the 2021 Santa Train. Hopes for a quick pandemic long had faded. The drive-through events returned, and quietly, some began to wonder, after 2 years of cancellations, could the Santa Train be at the end of the line?
Ways to think about a way to pull the plug on the Santa Train's been on the table time and time and time again.
Train historian Ron Flannery said the reasons not to continue the Santa Train went beyond the pandemic. Reasons, he said, had been blaringly obvious for years.
It's an expensive item. You've got not only the equipment and all the care that goes with that, the crew expense, the disruption to revenue traffic you know, because you're inviting the masses to come gather around, you know, a railroad infrastructure. There's a safety issue for that reason, so they put a lot of emphasis on it. So, yeah, it's been kicked around since the early 60s. COVID would have been a perfect reason to stop it and say, hey, guys, this has been great, but it's over.
Those concerns seemed to amplify when in August 2022, word came that the Santa train wouldn't happen for a third year. This time, it wasn't the pandemic. Sponsors announced that due to the current supply chain and ongoing staffing challenges across the CSX network, it is not feasible to run the train this November, as all of CSX's resources and personnel are needed to keep the nation's economy moving.
And when they announced we couldn't do it, it was very, very heartbreaking, to say the least.
But just a few weeks after the 2022 cancellation announcement,
they said we've got a special announcement coming up, and we want to talk to you Friday before we announce it next week.
A stunning change in plans that left Santa train fans overwhelmed.
My heart just was full at that moment. It was full.
A new kind of superfood? Hardee's new Super Bacon Biscuit has twice the bacon and is available till noon on the weekends.
The universe provides.
Bite into the new Super Bacon Biscuit, only at Hardee's.
Food. It makes the holidays merrier. 'Tis the season for the freshest produce, the highest quality cuts of meat, and more. Nobody does food or the holidays like Food City. This week, save on Food City Fresh Lean Ground Round, $4.99 a pound for 3 pounds or more. Del Monte vegetables, buy one, get one free. Oscar Mayer bacon, just $5.99, and more.
It's the Zack's Home Black Friday sale. For the first time ever, get a double sales tax discount on in-stock inventory or 5 years free financing with huge Black Friday deals throughout the entire showroom. Like this top green leather sofa with reclining headrest and footrest, normally $29.99. Black Friday priced at $13.99. Save $1,600 and many more. Zack's has more furniture inventory right now than ever before. The Zack's Home Black Friday sale.
You got to get to Zack's.
At Eastman Credit Union, we want to make your life easier. That's why we offer services like our mobile app that lets you transfer money and deposit checks on the go. Phone support and a live chat option on our website available during normal business hours. And you can even switch to online statements to receive them straight to your email inbox every month. To sign up for online statements and learn more about all the perks of being an ECU member, just visit ecu.org/easy.
Absolute Granite and Cabinetry is your one-stop for kitchen and bath. We can turn your ideas into the kitchen and bath of your dreams. For both new construction and remodeling, we offer one of the largest selections of granite, marble, quartz, and quartzite with over 70 colors in stock that can be custom cut and polished to your specifications. Absolute also has a wide selection of semi-custom cabinetry that fit your decor and budget. Enjoy your kitchen and bath like never before with the help of Absolute Granite and Cabinetry.
There is nothing quite like Christmas in the Smokies. Make time to be with the people you love.
Don't miss Dollywood Smoky Mountain Christmas presented by Humana for award-winning shows and millions of beautiful lights. Get your 2023 Gold Season Pass for less than $22 per month when purchasing online by December 4th. Details at Dollywood.com.
Come home for Christmas. Dollywood. Love every moment.
Big news! We're all morning people now. Nope, you're not less lazy. Hardee's now serves super sausage biscuits anytime before noon on weekends.
What?
Again?
Bite into the new, meaty Super Sausage Biscuit, only at Hardee's.
For thousands, the passage of the Santa train from Kentucky through Virginia into Tennessee is about seeing the man on the back of that train. Who do you here to see?
Santa.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you seen him yet?
Yeah, I saw him right there.
Or did you wave to Santa?
I did, yes. I did. And he waved back.
But for many, this day has nothing to do with getting a present. They just want to see the Santa train from high places above the tracks where the train passes by. from hillsides where they've hiked in for a view otherwise unseen from the road, and from the road that can become an impromptu parking lot, like here in Scott County, Virginia, where we noticed a huge crowd gathered just to see the Santa train as it passed over the CSX Copper Creek Viaduct. For all who've come for whatever reason, maybe it was the series of cancellations that made them realize not every tradition lasts forever.
CSX initially told us that we were not going to have the train this year.
But then something happened.
We were told we need to have another Santa train conference call, and they said we've got a special announcement coming up, and we want to talk to you Friday before we announce it next week. Well, I just assumed it was going to be, we're going to have a concert with a special celebrity or something like that.
Celebrities long had been a fixture on the Santa train, famous faces who joined Santa in wishing the crowds a Merry Christmas. But it turns out discussions were underway at the highest levels of CSX. After the 2022 cancellation was announced, newly hired CSX president and CEO Joe Hendricks says he first heard about the CSX Santa train and how labor shortages meant it had been canceled for the year.
I heard about the train actually at a dinner we were having together when the day before I was supposed to be announced, and talked to Jamie and the team and said, what would it take? If we could bring it back, what would it take to make that happen? Because we were really short on manpower and crews.
No one in Kingsport knew it, but CSX and its union partners were devising a new plan to shift staff assignments, allowing business on the track to continue while also running the Santa train.
I called them up and said, hey, I think we got an idea, we got a plan, and without the help of our union groups, our partners of our employees, this train would not be running. So we're very thankful for that.
So I was really surprised when they said what they said. Santa train's back.
The first thing that Raymond and I done was fist bumped each other because we were so happy. Even though we'd only have a month to put this together, I'm like, we're going to do it. We're going to make this thing happen, and the train is going to run again.
It means a lot, and after they announced it was going to come back this year, I mean, everybody had a smile on their face just hearing it.
Then came the question, how? How would a project that usually takes 10 months come together in a matter of a few weeks?
And everybody just said, what do we need to do?
Turns out the key players had a plan.
So we said, well, all we need are volunteers. We need the train to be set up. We need all the totes loaded.
And that's just what happened. Within a few days, the Santa train plan was coming together, from the volunteers packing the toys to the highest levels of one of America's oldest corporations.
There obviously were reasons for us not to hold the train this year, but when you see the joy on the people's faces and what it means to all of these folks and to the CSX employees themselves, we had to do everything that we could to make sure that we moved mountains, that we made miracles happen, and the Santa train could run this year.
CSX folks have a good heart.
It costs money, it's disruptive, you can find lots of reasons not to do it, but those aren't, at the end of the day, good reasons. So thankfully, for whatever reason, CSX decided, yeah, we're going to run a Santa train. It's a good thing.
Corporate America here showing it does have a heart, especially at Christmas. So yes, Santa Train happens because of key sponsors like CSX, Food City, Appalachian Power, Souls for Souls, and the Kingsport Chamber of Commerce. But behind all those sponsors are real people who, through the years, have devoted their lives to the Santa Train mission. Those early Santa Train dreamers didn't have tradition to rely on. For them, devotion seemed to have been driven by the emotion they felt in giving the gift. In that 1982 Charles Kuralt report on CBS Evening News, one of the legends of the early years of the train explained it well.
Santa's helper back in the train's candy compartment has been making this trip for more years even than that. E.B. Jitney Blankenbeckler remembers seeing children standing barefoot in the snow beside the tracks. You've made a lot of kids happy over the years.
Well, I hope so, yes. But not near as happy as it's made me and the other fellows, you know. We get a lot out of it. Especially the new men, the first few trips. It's a big emotional experience. Yes, sir. It definitely is.
Not long after Oakwood Market jumped on board as a key Santa Train sponsor, the owner realized this was about more than just a few donations.
Our greatest contribution to that was to allow
one of our, top staff people to spend probably 30 or 40% of his time over the year acquiring goods and services for the Santa train in order to give out. That was Raymond Gallion.
Raymond Gallion's job was to manage Oakwood markets, but his year-long passion was all about that train. Here's Gallion himself talking about it in 1991.
Being in the grocery business, I have contacts with a lot of people. That's how I get it. As a matter of fact, I would have started bumming for next year.
In the mid-90s, that baton was handed over to another Santa train legend, Ed Moore, the Food City manager who, long after his duties were done for the day, could be seen collecting and sorting gifts for children whose names he'd never know.
He counted down the days until Santa train was coming.
The Santa train lost Ed Moore in 2013. His recruits carry on, but they miss him.
He was really great with people and great with kids and had a passion for helping out the community, and we try to honor that.
It's the Friday night before the Santa train. Volunteers have gathered for a meal, a chance to hear the latest plans for the next day, and a surprise. Every year, one volunteer is honored with the Ed Moore Santa Train Service Award. This year, the winner, Rob Arnold with AEP.
I came up, with not a whole lot, and it means a lot for me to be able to go into these communities and give back.
It's real important to us that we honor Ed's memory by doing a good job.
Merry Christmas! Any survey of the key people who've kept the Santa train tradition alive has to include discussion of a very elite club of volunteers. Membership so far limited to only 4 people whose job it's been over 80 years to, well, show up, dressed and ready to go for the crowds.
They are not only expecting gifts, they want to see Santa Claus on the back of that train. They just want to see Santa. I mean, he's the man. He's the celebrity.
The first year, 1943, it was businessman Joe Higgins. Year 2, it was someone else's turn, and the business owners in Kingsport immediately thought of John Dudney, a dry cleaner with a jolly personality and a Santa-like physique.
Merry Christmas! Santa Claus, John Dudney, remembers when a friend from the Chamber of Commerce came into his store carrying a black boot.
And he said, try this boot on. I said, for what? He said, don't ask any questions, just try the boot on. I tried the boot on, and he says, you're it. I said, I'm it what? He said, you're the town Santa Claus, as of this minute.
Well, they say if the shoe fits, Santa.
Wear it. So I've been wearing it for 35 years.
Never missed a trip for 38 consecutive years.
John Dudney's grandson, Bill Dudney, still has the uniform.
And this suit weighs a lot.
He even has the boots and the vintage beard made of human hair. Treasured family heirlooms, a reminder of the values of the man who wore it.
But what was important to him was, number 1, the Santa train, and then number 2, he always went to Holston Valley Hospital, and he would visit every sick child in that hospital that he was able to visit or could have visitors, and he thoroughly enjoyed doing that.
Frank Brogdon was next, a beloved businessman and city leader who carried on the tradition for decades. And for the past 24 years, the main man on board has been
Don Royston.
And what is your title as it refers to the Santa train?
I'm a very close friend of Santa Claus.
Royston says on Santa Train Day, Santa is on from the very start to the very end.
I personally do not leave the platform of the train from 6 o'clock in the morning until 3:15 in the afternoon. Grandma's on the front porch and she's waving at you, or a child expecting to see Santa when that train goes by. Santa's going to be back there. And the next question is it's all about fluid intake the day before.
That, you could say, is the voice of experience. And speaking of voice, there are a few key phrases that you're going to hear at every stop. Well, of course, there's that one, but also heard often the very direct words from the man himself to individuals in the middle of the crowds.
Santa loves you.
Santa sees you and Santa loves you. Santa points it out.
Those words, that connection, Those in charge now think the creators of the train 80 years ago must have been in awe when they saw that connection that the Santa Train provides. The Santa Train's 80th journey soon will come to an end. A thrilling moment for the hundreds of people who've worked hard while wondering, could they really make it happen?
It's the Super Bowl for us, if you will, because we've been doing all this work behind the scenes up till now.
Now, another question looming. What about next year and the year after that? Turns out that question would be answered by one person on board the 80th Santa Train before it reached its final stop.
Food. It makes the holidays merrier. 'Tis the season for the freshest produce, the highest quality cuts of meat, and more. Nobody does food or the holidays like Food City. This week, save on Food City fresh, lean ground round, $4.99 a pound for 3 pounds or more. Del Monte vegetables, buy one, get one free. Oscar Mayer bacon, just $5.99, and more.
Winter is fast approaching, and energy costs are rising as much as 27% this year. Are you overspending due to old, worn-out windows? Call The Window Source and talk to our experienced team who will help you save money today. We have many options to help you design the perfect replacement windows. We also specialize in siding and doors, making sure your home stays warm and cozy. With 32 years of experience, along with the highest-rated warranty in the industry, we are the window siding and door experts. Call The Window Source today.
No one has time for unexpected problems, especially when it comes to electricity. At Precision Electrical Company, we understand. We have 24/7 emergency service, and our helpful staff will schedule your appointment within a 2-hour window. Our expert electricians will be on time, professional, polite, respect your home, and solve your problems so that you can get back to your busy life.
Precision Electrical, everyone's personal electrician.
Questions about healthcare but don't know where to start? With Health Corner right at your fingertips, WJHL.com connects you to meaningful information on health services that can make your life easier and better. WJHL has partnered with health professionals in our community to bring you useful tips and information to answer your health questions. Go to WJHL.com. Click the Local Experts tab, then Health Corner, and connect with these healthcare professionals.
Living Water Vein Institute and Medical Spa is the region's premier faith-based center for the treatment of varicose and spider veins, including veins in the feet, arms, hands, and face. Dr. Berry is the only triple certified vein specialist in the region. Offering both invasive and non-invasive treatments, we can help where others have failed.
At Living Water Vein Institute, you're not just another patient. Your case is unique, and we'll work with you to find an affordable plan to get you looking and feeling healthy again. Call for your consultation today.
It's almost time for family gatherings and holiday celebrations. Here at Factory Direct Furniture, we offer the largest selection with the lowest prices for the holiday season. Whether you need a new bedroom suite for your holiday guests or a living room suite for your entertaining, Factory Direct Furniture has the greatest selection of furniture at additional 35% off. At Factory Direct Furniture, you can take it with you or we deliver. So come experience our 100,000 square foot showroom. Happy holidays from Kara and Factory Direct Furniture. And don't forget, we're open 7 days a week.
It's just before 3 p.m. on Saturday afternoon. 110 miles of train track behind it, the Santa Train makes its final stop in the place where it all began back in 1943 in Kingsport, Tennessee. And you just can't help but marvel at how so much has changed in the years since the Santa Train began. And yet, how much is still the same in 2022 with the train and the traditions and the reason behind it all.
And so the 2022 Santa Train, the 80th Santa Train, comes to an end, and it begs the question, after everything that's happened in the past few years, will there be an 81st Santa Train? What about next year?
I asked that question to the man in charge. What about 2023,
will the Santa train be back next year?
We've actually had some conversations about, where do we take it from here? How do we take it, further? And so you can bet I will be here next year. My wife is already making plans, so I think we'll be here for sure.
And for years to come?
And for years to come.
Joe Henricks hinted there's more news to come on ways CSX plans to expand the reach of the Santa train.
We've missed it for the last 3 years, and I think it's really something for it to come back. It kind of kicks off the season.
Those people appreciate it. They don't have their hands out asking you for it. They just want something to look forward to and to enjoy.
So Santa train to me it's amazing. I wouldn't change it for the world, and I hope it continues for 100 more years.
To you, the Santa train means what?
It means everything. It does. It is something I'll always treasure.
A combustion analysis of your gas furnace could save you money and may save your life. Call and schedule yours today with Kingsport Heating and Air. Carrier, turn to the experts. Call 423-246-1500 today.
Food. It makes the holidays merrier. 'Tis the season for the freshest produce, the highest quality cuts of meat, and more. Nobody does food or the holidays like Food City. This week, save on Food City Fresh Lean Ground Round, $4.99 a pound for 3 pounds or more. Del Monte vegetables, buy one get one free. Oscar Mayer bacon, just $5.99, and more.
The perfect floor starts at your locally owned Abbey Carpet and Floor showroom. Personalized service, expert assistance, incredible selection, free estimates, professional installation. We'll pamper your home from start to finish. We know our neighbors because we are your neighbor.
For the finest in residential and commercial flooring, come see us at Dockery Abbey Carpet and Floor, 3546 West Market Street in Johnson City.
Time is running out, so hurry down to Friendship to save literally thousands of dollars during the big sale. We have over 700 used cars to choose from, starting under $5,000. You heard right, cars for less than $5,000. New Hyundai starting below $20,000 and 0% interest available. Only at Friendship Hyundai will you get a lifetime warranty and an any reason 7-day exchange included with every new or used car. Nobody beats Friendship Hyundai of Bristol or Johnson City. We're dealing.
We got 16 dead bodies in a buried shipping container.
These aren't just connected cases. This is a serial killing network.
The BAU is different, though.
Where others see monsters, we see patterns.
If there's something to find, I swear to you, we will find it.
Criminal Minds Evolution special preview event tomorrow on CBS and streaming exclusively on Paramount Plus.
No two hometowns are exactly the same, but they all have one thing in common. People committed to making them better. And Steel has been a part of those hometowns for over half a century. Help us support our communities, our neighbors, our friends. Shop local. Real Steel. Find yours.
When your gas furnace is on, do you get headaches or feel sleepy? Deadly carbon monoxide buildup could be the issue. Call and schedule a combustion analysis now with Kingsport Heating and Air. Carrier, turn to the experts. 423-246-1500.
One final thing. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Channel 11 JHL listeners.